pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll.
Bates. Here. Benjamin. Here. Holdman.
Here.
Kasdorf.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Sardina.
Here.
Tarks.
Here.
Is there anyone desiring to be heard? None. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All in opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Any communications?
No.
Committee reports, Building Board.
Building Board met at 5:55 this evening and approved a sign permit for White Jamoon Cafe, 12528 West Hampton. End of report.
Thank you. And then we did not have Library, Finance, Community Foundation, or community event meetings. That will be on the next agenda. Report of the Administrator.
Just a few things for you. We did get our brand new squad today. You may have seen it in the parking lot. It's nice and shiny. We were expecting originally to get it in February of next year, but it seems like Ford released all of these squads all at once, so we got it before we thought. So that's great news. There is now just a little bit of a backup trying to get it outfitted. So the place that we were going to get it outfitted, I believe it's going to be December-ish, December 10th that it goes in to get furnished. So when the new year comes around, we'll have that brand new squad out on the road. I guess the only other update that I have for you is that the budget is looking really good. We should be good to go on the 17th of October to review the budget with all of you to go over the details. We are expecting right now, again, depending on when how the manufacturing assessments come in, a decrease in the tax rate of about 11 cents per thousand. So we're looking pretty good when it comes to that. That helps. That got helped by the shared revenue from the state, increase in transportation aids, and also non-tax revenues generated from things like citations, community building rentals, and the like. Building permits, all kind of increasing for next year because we've been very, very good the past couple of years on those revenues. So with that, I am finished with my report.
Question?
Yes.
I didn't get it. Did we give dates for those meetings, the budget meetings? Did I miss that?
I'm sorry, I did not send them out. We'll go over the budget on the 17th, and then the public hearing on the budget and final approval will be on the second meeting in November.
17th of November.
Yep.
Oh, he said the second.
A second meeting in
second
November.
meeting in November,
So that will
For us,
be,
they'll go over the budget though.
on October 17th.
It's October 7th.
yes.
That's what I'm asking. I wasn't straight on.
Yep, so that'll be November 14th that we hold the public hearing and approval.
Okay.
It's just gonna be on the 17th of October. I don't anticipate much being on that village board agenda.
Could we jump ahead and do just the siren since we have the contractor here?
Yeah, you'll need to make a motion to suspend the agenda and bring that item forward.
Okay.
I'll
Does-
make,
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to suspend the agenda and bring item 1 under new business forward at this time.
Second.
motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. So new business, we're going to talk about discussion and possible action on the Village of Butler emergency siren. We have our contractor here. I guess, yeah, if we might have questions for you, so you might want to come up. We just got this, but we know that the siren goes off random. We've had 3 times in the last month or two, and then those times are at 1:40, 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then usually it's a call to dispatch to turn off the siren or reset the siren. And I think on the last one, they weren't even able to reset it. It had to do a full test cycle. So we called in for service, and tonight we have some options. And if you could explain kind of what you found.
Good evening. My name is Josh. I'm the lead service technician with Wigan Warning Systems, the American Single Factory dealer here in Wisconsin. On September 11th of this year, I was dispatched to investigate the spurious activations you guys have been having. Upon my arrival, I immediately performed a full control check of your siren. I went through everything from battery chargers to the main board to the logic board. I couldn't find any issues in the actual controller. Then the next step is there is a separate, it's called a daughter card. It's what actually receives the radio activation from the county. So what I did was I brought that to American Signal up on Bradley Road. They tested it. They tested out just fine, actually perfect in their words. So going further into my investigations, what can typically happen is you might have some radio interference issues or something on a county isn't matching up quite right. To kind of explain real quick how it works is whenever the county activates your siren, they send what's called a two-tone string. It's two tones, so, one right after another. It's time dependent. And it's a pitch of the tone that the siren picks up on and activates off of. There's a very small margin of error with that, depending on the pitch of the tone. It's like 3%. So going through, I further investigated. I went through the county logs on that fire frequency to see if there was anything that would have activated the siren on their end. I couldn't find anything except for there was one incident on the 10th of September at 9:01 in the morning. I believe in the morning. Yes, 09:01.
That was on Sunday?
There was a two-tone string sent out for the New Berlin fire page. At this point, I called dispatch. We went through all three of the activations that I had been given. That was the only thing that was close, and it just wasn't close enough to be considered what was actually activating your siren. Going further into the investigations at this point, it leads us to believe that there's some sort of interference issue, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Hacking does happen pretty frequently, actually, here in the state of Wisconsin. To kind of explain the siren activation system, there is no level of encryption given by the county. At a basic level, a lot of communities use what's called a PL tone to encrypt their sirens, they're just their general radio transmissions. Waukesha County does not have that set up for the sirens, and to do so would be, you have to get the county to go through all the repeater sites, add a PL tone, go to all the siren sites, add a PL tone, just be a little bit of a hassle. So the only way that we foresee the problem being solved for good would be a level of encryption. The nice thing is to kind of explain the quote in front of you. Obviously, the quote is for a new controller. We figured it's about 20, 25 years old. It's seen its serviceable life. And
See that in here.
it'd be a good time for a refresh. But on top of that, that would include the addition of your site to the Menominee Falls system. They just upgraded their system within the past couple of years to encryption. And it features a very high level of encryption that only a few communities here in the state utilize. And along with that, the reason why I kind of thought Menominee Falls, the village of Lannon is also on their system. They have some sort of agreement. I started the conversation with the appropriate representative with Menominee Falls, and they said they did not foresee the issue adding your site to their system, but the logistics would have to be worked out once you reach a decision on what you guys would like to do going forward. To kind of wrap or sum everything up, we really don't know where the interference is coming from that's activating your siren, but it exists.
And encryption is the solve.
And the encryption is the solve.
Josh, can I ask, the quote here is dated for, it's only good, is there a typo here? Is it supposed to be 2022 or did you mean to have it 2023?
I apologize.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure we were looking at old information.
Typically, we do from the origination of the quote 30 days.
Okay.
And I can get you a fresh copy.
So if someone is hacking it, do they have to be by the siren or near the siren to set it off?
Kind of. simple and scary than you would think. You can go on Amazon, purchase a $30 radio. Once you have that radio, you plug it into a computer, you can generate your specific two-tone for your siren. You play it over the radio and you can activate it whenever. The encryption adds a level of, it doesn't really encrypt the radio, but the actual signal that activates the siren is encrypted. It's timestamped, and that there is, it's called MSK. It's basically data that's sent to the siren.
So 11,000 is what we're looking at, 673, that one?
And that would include the control upgrade, and then the addition of your site to Menominee Falls should everything work out. The only other thing I noticed too, the only issue I noticed in your existing controller was there is a rotator, a rotate sensor up in the head that I think is stuck. So that would potentially have to be solved at some point. The other, I should mention too, while you're kind of, thinking about the option in front of you, the nice thing about going encryption is it's two-way. So not only, right now your siren is set up, it receives a signal from the county, it activates, that's all it does. Once you were on the Menominee Falls system, you would have two-way testing of the siren. So it would pull whenever Menominee Falls would pull, usually daily. It would tell you that your siren is okay or give you the current status of your siren. If there was ever an issue with your siren, it would also send you an unsolicited report on that. So you would know immediately that you had a problem, whether it be batteries or a battery charger that would go bad. And then you would also have a remote login to activate your siren or see the status. So it's all call-based.
So the one option would be to fix it with encryption, because obviously something's wrong with it. Are communities getting rid of their sirens as time goes on?
We've come to see somewhat of a trend in Wisconsin. There were two communities that come to mind. The city of Anago, Wisconsin, had gotten rid of their sirens, and the city of Oconomowoc. Both communities are currently looking to get sirens again.
So they got rid of it, but now they want them back. Got it.
I think just the redundancy factor of the sirens, having that level of protection, 'cause I don't always carry my cell phone with me, and just having it as a backup means, for a weather warning, should someone not have a cell phone with them, or in the case we've heard before that a storm might actually take out the cell phone towers before it hits. And then the sirens usually might be the least effective way to warn people, but they can quickly become the most effective. Just kind of seems to be that, like I said, a level of redundancy that we value that.
Does implementation of this solution add any ongoing costs year over year?
I think that when we had our conversation, the thing that we talked about as an ongoing cost would be if we chose to do the annual maintenance. Is that correct?
Correct. We typically, with the sirens, especially when they get older and the unit, we really like to get up to the head at least once every other year. Grease the grease points, check the rotator, make sure that the motor is in good shape. So that is an incurred cost. Currently, our service agreements it's a biennial agreement where we do one head and control year and then one control only year. We're at $395 for year one and then $245 for year two. So
$600? Okay. All right, question answered.
And is there a warranty?
Typically, no. We don't guarantee anything when we're not on site, just for the technical purposes or liability.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Even if you do maintenance once every once in a while, just to check things out and see what condition the siren is, make sure that it's in top shape. Realistically, they're just a machine that run. As long as you're willing to put the parts for them and make sure that they're pretty soon ready to go.
So right now, our siren is controlled by Waukesha County. And it's playing more than it should. If we switch it to Menominee Falls, they control when it goes off, Chief? Okay.
And if I can just come, I was asked by two trustees today who owns the siren, and maybe but I called 3 different county departments and nobody could help me out today. The dispatch told me to call the clerk's office. I'm like, the clerk's office isn't going to need to do with anything like this. I called the sheriff's office. They told me to call dispatch, and emergency management didn't pick up the 3 times that I called them. And I called all 3 of the numbers. So if there's an emergency, hopefully there's somebody there, but just to answer that question.
I know we've been maintaining it over the years but I think usually once it fails is when we call for service.
Correct, and there are a lot of communities who operate that way. You kind of let it ride as soon as you notice an issue. Instead you call, we'll come out, figure out what's going on, and then if you do upgrade it to two-way, it is an additional feature that allows you to kind of see current status year round, and kind of predict some of those issues.
So with this system, then we could, or Ben could monitor the system?
Correct. There is
Okay.
a web link with the next gen software. It's a cloud-based software. A web link with a login and password. We can either, depending on what talks you have with Menominee Falls, you could either get their login or we could come up with your own specific. It would just be your siren hosted in the same software. It's a couple different ways you can do it.
So we're looking, if we do this, we have to join Menominee Falls just because of the software?
For the encryption.
Okay.
It's one of the only other, I guess, encrypted system in the area that we thought about would be Elm Grove. They recently just upgraded to encrypted communications in their system. So that might be an option too as a backup. But it would be one or the other, like I said, Waukesha, the dispatch console that they have does not offer any level of encryption.
I wonder how that would work if dispatch is still flipping the switch to test it. Why don't they have the same system that the Falls has? Do we know? Different systems.
I'm not 100% sure. I know some of the communities here, like Town of Brookfield, have their own kind of encrypted system
Oh.
that's tripped by the county. But I think we're under the impression, and we may be wrong on this, but I think that their dispatch center does activate their own sirens. Not all dispatch centers. Menominee Falls. Menominee Falls dispatch center. Oh. So then I guess it would be they would dispatch using their console, I suppose.
Do other communities have are they having the same problem we have? Or are they just newer equipment?
Sparingly, the last that we can think of up in Marathon County, the Marathon County system, it was never completely confirmed, but they had a spurious activation like 2 in the morning on July 4th, a couple years ago. And the only thing that they could think of that was remotely close was the fire department over in Michigan. So between the two and the fact that only a couple of sites triggered, they kind of came to the loose conclusion that they had been.
Okay. Well, this happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
More than once.
More than necessary, yeah.
It's not just a one-off. So but you would think if someone was hacking it, they would do it more often.
Well, the last time it was 3 in about a week. So
Yeah.
that's pretty frequent.
Yeah.
And is this under like a 1-year contract at a time, or what's the village's obligation? What if after, 2 years it's not working out? Do we have an out?
That would all be part of the discussion with Menominee Falls, whatever agreement you guys would make with them potentially. Basically, we just kind of said, hey, we're the service provider for Butler. We're looking at some options for them to fix the problem they're having with spurious activations. And the gentleman I spoke with mentioned that it would more than likely be no problem, but he said that you guys would have to have.
Yeah.
So let me just play it off of Mark's question. If we partner with Menominee Falls and we want to get out of it, we need to partner with someone else that would be encrypted. So would that only other option then be Elm Grove?
Not necessarily. You can always revert. So if it
Okay.
wasn't working out, you wanted to, it's just changing that daughter card back to Tony.
Got
You
it.
could always hang on to that too, so you have that option down the line.
Since it is 20+ years old, is it worth looking at getting a whole new siren? Or is it?
Potentially. Typically, I didn't come up with a quote specifically for that. Off the top of my head, generally, you're looking at probably We did kind of notice that the pole was in a little bit of rough shape, so that would include, fixing everything, including the pole. We can get you more specific numbers on that, but you'd be looking at about 23.
And that would include all this equipment, ballpark. And I know you didn't price it out, but so our options could be update this for about 11.6 or consider all new equipment with this technology at about low 20s. Okay.
And this
Okay.
option does include reworking the one in front of you. I believe, Tom had gone in and included, it does include, conduit, wires, pretty much everything that you need. I think the only difference in the quote would be the actual siren head itself from American Signal and the pole and some of the stuff.
Okay.
Would we own the pole then? So we'd own the pole? Is,
We're paying for it, we would own it.
well,
I would think.
but I guess I'm wondering, and it has something to do with this, but more forward thinking is there an opportunity to rent space on that for revenue for cell service?
It's possible. I've reached out to a number of cell phone providers to see if they would be interested in putting stuff up on our water tower, and either they have not gotten back to me or they're saying that they're going away from putting cell towers on municipal property.
Got it. I just thinking if we end up going down the route of a new, is there a way to offset some of that cost by partnering with some of the cell services?
So currently the problem is encryption. That's what we need. So, but if we get a brand new one, do we still need to do that?
Yes.
We
Yeah.
would recommend it.
So we would still
One or the other.
need to get a new one and still hook up with the falls.
Or Elm Grove.
And
Yeah,
then
or
kind of going
whatever.
back to the cost, just real quick, I know it was brought up. The software, they own their software, they don't pay any annual fee to upkeep it. Now, I don't know, I know that they mentioned loosely, they don't know if there would be costs in addition to join them. They would ask for, something to help support, the transition that they made a couple years ago. He didn't, again, foresee there being a cost, but just something to kind of think about as, discussions would be progressing.
So the only way to really, we could keep what we have, but then we're not encrypted. The main thing is the encryption to block the hackers. That's what it comes down to. And then the siren
Assuming
itself.
that's the problem.
Correct, or it could just be 20-year-old equipment.
Well, and if it was, if it's other unintentional interference, there's another
Right.
frequency that uses a similar two-tone that's just making it somehow, the
Encryption will still cover that. Yep.
Okay. So I almost want to just say that I think we should get a quote for what it would cost for a new system. And then have maybe had another discussion about it. That would just be my initial thought. And then we could start conversations with Menominee Falls as well.
Yeah, if you just make a motion and I'll do what you want me to do.
I'd make a motion to table this until probably the second meeting of November, so that we have time to get the quote and have dialogue with Menominee Falls.
And to get a new updated quote?
Yes.
Did you want that as part of
Yep.
that? Okay.
All right, I'll second that then.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, say nay. Motion passes and that item will be tabled. Thank you very much for your
Thank you very
time
much.
and your,
Thanks, Josh.
and your
Appreciate
input.
the information.
Okay, now we're gonna go back on to the agenda and we'll do unfinished business. And this was the discussion and possible action on ordinance 23-07, the planned unit development. And I will just give a little bit of an introduction. What we're gonna do tonight is I've asked Ben to kind of take us back all the way to square one on this. Because I know we had a good discussion last time. So what we had is we were approached by a developer that at the time we didn't know we could talk about it or what the, like, say what the plans were. So we've now have permission to move forward with saying what the plan is or why we're doing what we're doing, to make this a little bit more clear. And it is a developer wants to, the house east of the current Butler Square, they want to tear that down and build a 3-story,
40-unit
40
apartment.
unit
complex.
apartment complex. Right now it's zoned R3, which is residential. What they want to do at that location is not allowed per our zoning requirements. So we do have what we call a PUD already on as an ordinance. And what we're looking to do is amend or update the PUD to accommodate all the parcels in the village. Because the PUD right now only applies to 1 or 2 possible properties in the entire village, because the current language has a minimum of 5 acres. So we do have 1 current PUD in the M3 district, and that's the doggy daycare over by the Quick Trip. And that was done, we think, around 2013, 2014.
2014.
And it has less than 5 acres.
Right.
So somewhere along the line, that was probably amended to accommodate, it's like 4.8,
Yes, it was just under the wire.
just under. So we do have 1 PUD already in the village. The PUD, it then becomes kind of a system, and this is where I'll turn it over to Ben here in a second. The PUD has a process that has to be done. And if we do the PUD, what we did was we went back out after the last meeting and we had the attorney put more teeth into it than our current PUD. This PUD, or all PUDs, then it would still be an R3 zoning, but it would be an R3 PUD. And basically a PUD allows for flexibility to eliminate thresholds of density, setbacks, and heights.
Correct.
Okay.
And in exchange for them following specific rules that we lay out for them. So right now, the village does not have any type of building material requirements. They can build a building out of whatever they want to in the village. It does not have to necessarily be harmonious with the surrounding buildings, but with the PUD, it would require that. They would have to demonstrate to the village that what they want to build, and again, this is not just about the one development, it's about any type of development. With this ordinance, Chase Bank would be able to be taken down, and if they want to do a PUD, taken down and rebuilt from some of the setback requirements maybe on it. It basically just allows for flexibility in exchange for following some strict rules from the village. And they have to demonstrate to us that it's not going to be an undue burden on traffic, on the police department, on the fire department. They have to lay out a site plan, a landscaping plan. They have to do a lot more than, like with Flexographics, they just applied saying, this is the building we want to build. They complied with the MMSD regulations in the state, and then they got to build it. It was built, what it was built with, what it looked like, nothing like that. They just built their building. This gives us much more control over any type of development that would go in using that zoning district. And to add a little bit to what Paul said, because before there was a conversation on the cars on Hampton Avenue, what they're planning on doing is putting an underground parking lot. So all their residents would be able to park underground underneath the building, and they would have a parking lot in the back that would take all of the cars off of Hampton Avenue from Butler Square and park them in the back there. So take all those cars up from Hampton Avenue, put them off the street, because Butler Square owns the same parcel as that house is on, because right now that house is a rental house. So that's kind of everything that I know. I've had conversations with the fire chief. He says that as long as it's not taller than Butler Square, he doesn't see an issue with anything. But like I said, this isn't just about that property. And as Paul Alexi said in the letter that I sent to you all, he says that there's that word saying may. It's a legislative decision based off of what the village board believes is best for the village. And if it complies with what I think Mark and Mike brought up in the last meeting, does comply with our comprehensive plan? Does it satisfy the requirements that are listed in that ordinance? So I guess that's kind of my little spiel in addition to what Paul said.
Okay, what's legal ramifications down the road if somebody takes us to court on a denial of something?
So he did outline several court cases,
I saw that.
and I reviewed them before the meeting, and none of them really deal necessarily with what we're looking at. But it's the same thing as if, let's just say somebody bought the Chase Bank property and wanted to rezone it as an R3. If we don't think that that is best for that property, it's not, harmonious with the surrounding districts, if it doesn't meet our specifications, we can deny that rezoning because it's not eliminating all of the usefulness of that property.
Okay. I'm just curious what the legal ramifications are.
Yes, and from my interpretation, from his letter is that there's that may. It's a legislative decision. It's not mandatory. We can deny it. Again, you can't just deny it to deny it. You have to have the reasoning behind it. But again, this opens up the door, particularly since the village has some properties out there that are fairly old and might have an issue with some of the zoning code that it is right now if they wanted to tear down and rebuild or expand or whatnot. This gives them another opportunity, particularly because we're so compact. It gives us more flexibility.
The way I read it is that it gives us multiple opportunities or multiple layers of protection in deciding what comes in and what changes the landscape of Butler. I mean, is that pretty accurate? in terms
If
of
they
how-
use that zoning code.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, to me, and I read the letter too, and basically, once you get taken to court, if we deny somebody and they take us to court, basically then it goes up to a jury on each point that they want to argue. So, we're saying they should put up X, Y, Z construction material or whatever, aesthetics, different things. There's so many points are arguable. So, it's leaves a lot of it really to speculation. I don't think there's any firm guarantee that doing this gives us the teeth that we think it's going to give us. That's just my perspective on it.
I disagree with that because you can get sued for any reason at any time. And the nice thing about giving us more teeth to it, as we've been saying, is it still has to go through the plan commission. It still has to meet the PUD requirements. And then it still has to come to us for a final say. So there are multiple steps being put into this where it's just not a guarantee that what they want is going to pass.
Right. Except that in this case, us writing this code allows them to put up an apartment building. Which gets
Yes.
back to my earlier contention that adding more rentals in Butler is not good for the village.
I disagree with you fully on that.
And that's opinion. I understand I might be alone in that, and I don't think it's good for the community in the long haul.
And as I said before, if they do apply for the PUD status and the board determines that this is not in accordance with the comprehensive plan, at that time you can deny it based off of that. Dave, I don't know if Dave, you.
I'll just say two things. How long has that century left?
Yeah, exactly.
28 years probably?
Easy. Yeah.
And while I haven't been sitting in on Brookfield meetings, we've had numerous individuals and businesses wanting to come buy that property. And the city of Brookfield said no.
Yeah, they didn't want
They've
to,
never been sued.
yeah, they didn't want to
Maybe from
rezone
a
it.
business perspective, if I'm gonna come to you and I wanna build on like whatever at this business, and the village or the city or whatever says no, am I going to turn around and use more of my money to sue the village and and then run into headache after headache after headache, and roadblock after roadblock.
According to this, many have, and he even states in the letter that not all of them get registered. So some people do.
Some people do, but that, I would not say that from a business standpoint, that is the most astute thing. Also, we're talking about a brand new, complex with underground parking. I'm willing to bet that these rents are gonna be pretty high. Knowing the market now, it's probably gonna be north of $2,000 a month. And that's, from a rental standpoint, we don't have any issues with the square right now with Wayne. And their rents are really high. So if that's your contention about added stressors to law enforcement and fire, I would be willing to guess that we would be going there more on a fire basis because of older individuals that are going. Now, have we heard anything as to this is a designated senior citizen housing?
I have not heard that at all in the discussions that I've had. Again, I've not specifically asked if there's going to be a demographic that's going to be targeted.
That's what the square was.
Yeah, right.
The percentage of needs to be over 55 in that housing complex to qualify.
And I've heard, again, this is just stuff I've heard on the street, but I've heard that they've relaxed some of the requirements at the square for that. They were getting people that are under that age ceiling or floor.
We're talking not just that, we're talking the whole village here
Correct.
on this one. So why are we going our decision on that piece of property? It's the whole village we have to talk about.
Absolutely.
We talk about that particular project when that time comes up.
Yeah, we still, I mean, the big thing is right now we have a PUD in place that only applies to maybe one property, maybe two, or two properties.
But I get that. I don't dispute that. But what has been the problem with that so far? And I'm not saying that we should never update it, but I guess I'm looking at it strictly from the apartment building going up there.
I think
And it-
the problem, I don't mean to cut you off, Mark. Sorry about
Right,
that.
yeah.
I think the problem is that the way it's written today is very limiting.
Mhm.
It's preventing opportunity for us to grow our community and welcome others to it should they want to come. You know, and if by altering this and then bringing a good majority of that control back to the board as to how those developments move forward, I see it as an opportunity for continued growth, development, and a win for everybody.
And if I can just add on, I went to a Waukesha County, it was put on by the Waukesha County, I forgot their name. Basically, it's like a business alliance for Waukesha County. And I went to their roundtable where they were talking a lot about the housing issues in Waukesha County and how this section of the county, they had a map, had a very hard time finding moderately priced housing. And they were also talking about how if you want to revitalize, because if we look on Hampton Avenue, I know that we just had a business close on Hampton Avenue about that. So if we're looking at revitalizing Hampton Avenue, I think that we need to be looking at also changing kind of how Hampton Avenue looks and bringing more people in, because our population as a whole has been declining over the past 20 years, and we're not that big to begin with. So as we're slowly losing people as time goes on, that's going to hurt the local businesses. So having this influx of new development is going to really help. And I think that giving, again, what happens with the Chase Bank, what happens with Roofers Mart, you know, all these different properties, I think will really be a defining moment for how Butler is going forward. And I think that this at least gives us a tool to help with that.
And the current zoning of R3 only allows them an 8-family unit right now
Per building,
per building.
correct. So if they built 2 buildings on that lot, there would be 16 for that total lot.
Okay, are there any,
As it's coming through right now, they want to build a 40 unit.
40 unit.
well, what's in front of us, correct. And then what that if this got all the way through, that would add millions of dollars to our tax roll.
Depending on how much, yeah, then they have to, when they submit their plans, they have to tell us how much they estimate the value of it. I asked the building inspector kind of roughly what he's been seeing. He said that it could be up to, conservatively $20 million. And if we had $20 million added to our assessed value, that would reduce the tax rate by 71 cents per thousand. It would bring us back down to where we were before the police officer referendum.
And so there is a benefit to the village from a lot of
We've
aspects.
known that from the financial thing, and I've never disputed that either, that it would be a financial benefit. The last point I'll make is that he says in the lawyer's letter there too, that it should be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So I don't know if anybody's read our strategic plan that we did a few years ago, but there's nothing in there about housing.
Yeah, we never went that way.
No,
And we never finished that.
Maybe it's time we look at the
Right here, it's
strategic
finished.
plan.
it's finished.
I mean, but things change.
Well, and again,
Right.
that's something that you debate when the items before you, because right now there has been no official application. So if we're talking about an ordinance that applies to every property in the village, and we're basing that decision off of one particular property, that's what I'm trying to look at it from, is that it's not just for them, it's for all the different units of property, and we can discuss the issue of the rezoning if and when that comes up. And I would say that, comprehensive plans, again, just they change all the time. And if we determine that that's not what we want to have going forward, then that's what we decide, and then that's what we can deny the application on that basis based off of our ordinance. And again, anybody can sue you at any time for any reason. So it doesn't mean that they're going to be successful.
So if the board doesn't think our current strategic plan is of any value, I guess, again, in my mind, once we rewrite this ordinance, it's going to set in motion certain things. In my mind, having a clear idea of what we want to do, whether this or something else, should supersede rewriting code and so on. That's why I'm saying this is a bad idea right now.
I think if we put this forward the way it is and rewrite it, so it rewrite what you're talking about, our ordinances, to match what's coming down the road right now, I think that'd be better, because you're combining the two at once, not just trying to pick this one and put this one, you're combining them both. So we do this, bring it back into our ordinance codes, and I think we're better off, much better off.
Yeah, we can always revisit that. I think this is a great
I
opportunity.
almost think we
so-
need to.
And that's a separate discussion. So tonight, what we would do is, if we approve the updated PUD, we send it back to the plan commission.
Actually, Paul, can I interrupt you?
Go ahead.
So you're not, if because right now, the ordinance that I sent you from the attorney is not what technically is in front of you to be approved. You have to basically vote to refer it back to the plan commission. And the plan commission would then take up the newly worded ordinance that the attorney sent, the newest edition. Then they would vote on their recommendation. It would come back to you guys for another public hearing and then a vote. So that wouldn't take place until the beginning of November.
Okay.
So then we need a motion to send it back to the planning committee?
Correct, if that is what the board chooses to do.
Yes.
So then with that said, I would make a motion to send the ordinance 23-07 back to the planning committee for their review in November.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll on this one.
Bates,
Yes.
Benjamin,
Yes.
Holdman,
No.
Kasdorf,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes?
Sardina,
Yes.
Tarks,
Yes,
motion passes.
Thank you. And that motion is for it to go to the plan commission.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Just, do we know what meeting,
That'll be November 7th.
thank you.
for the plan commission or for us?
I'm sorry, that would be for us. The plan commission would be October 17th. I don't have enough time to publish the public hearing notice that would be mandatory. I can't publish something that we didn't decide on. So basically, I'm going to publish it tomorrow, and then that will be good for the 7th of November for the public hearing for here. But Plan Commission is good to go on the 17th.
Thank you. And back on new business, item number 2, discussion and possible action on the application to pave or alter portions of the right of way or to construct encroachments thereon pursuant to section 30-4 of the municipal code for Mid-City Corp.
So this is for AB Metal Fabrication. They have an issue with one of their sewer laterals. They hired Mid-City to do work on that, and what they will need to do is they will need to excavate a portion of the right-of-way. They are not going to, at this point, go into the road. They're going to just be excavating the grassy area of the right-of-way. And according to my interpretation of the ordinance, they needed to apply for a right-of-way alteration permit.
That's the area just south of Arden, on Arden.
Correct.
Okay.
And then they'll restore it to what it was.
Correct.
Yeah, they just need to dig it up.
Yeah, and they need to dig it up and do work on it. And if they need to cut into the road for whatever reason, they'll get a road cut permit through us. So I've had that discussion with them.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application from Mid-City Corporation.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All in opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Discussion and possible action on Justin Moran's Plan Commission application.
Oh. I don't know.
After what he just heard?
He didn't leave.
You still heard?
I did brief him on the upcoming events. So me and Justin sat down, we talked about it when he turned in his application. So I know we've been looking for somebody to fill this position, and I'm excited to have somebody who's been in the village for a while, who was a DPW employee, knows the village, sitting on that commission spot.
I'll make a motion to accept Justin Moore for a plan commission.
I'll second that.
And Tom?
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, say nay. Motion passes.
Oh, son of a-
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On the opposition, say nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks, Justin.
Seconded that motion to adjourn. Yes, thank you. I'm trying to monitor a couple of things at once.
All right, that was a
So
long
you're
one.
gonna be confused